Pacific Telestations Incorporated. You're watching Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Yeah.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz. Exciting show tonight. I have none other than good friend, Senator Arlene Yamashita. Of course, we'll be talking about universal pre-K and also charter schools. Matter of fact, I understand just before we got on there, I think the news broke that the governor signed the for the charter schools to fall under GovGuam procurement methodology, I guess is that's what
Rules
you
and
call
regs.
it. Rules and regs.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How you
Good
doing?
to see you, Senator. We're having really interesting days these days, but I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. No, you're doing good. Some challenges and stuff, but anyway, no. Well, thank you very much for coming on. A couple of weeks, I think was it last week? I think I had on radio Vince Guerrero,
Okay.
I guess the governor's initiative, alongside yourself, strong advocate for this, alongside the First Lady regarding pre-K or universal pre-K. And so when I read that, I said, "Wow, this is a good thing." I hope they're not words, in the midst of a campaign. But I know your passion, and I know your expertise, your early childhood education, and all that. And I want to hear more. I understand from Vince Guerrero that. They're looking to definitely start this upcoming school year,
right,
and have 2020 for the full implementation district-wide.
That's correct.
Okay, tell us about this.
So, early childhood education, you are right, has been my study, human development, early childhood. And so I have always known that early on, early learning, high quality early learning is really the response to how do we deal with graduation rates, how do we deal with workforce development, how do we deal with knowing how to make right decisions and cut down crime. And so, last term, Senator Tony Atta and Senator Frank Bloss Jr. introduced a measure to pilot elementary preschool programs. And so it was introduced, and the discussions really started. And so then come to this term, crazy times, right? Crazy times. Home invasions,
Sure.
carjacking, bank robberies, mom and pop stores, just awful, hideous crimes. And I really started to think about, and we're going to build a new penitentiary. We're going to have more police officers, and those are very important parts to having a safe community. But I also know that the intervention is one piece, but the prevention is another piece, and that starts at the very beginning. And we've had this conversation many times that being a parent is the most important job in the whole world, but it's also the one job that doesn't require any kind of training or certification.
Sure.
So the early childhood piece, that's where we can help our families know how to be a good parent today. And I suggest that being a good parent in today's world is very challenging. It really is. Things are fast, things are changing. Most families are one-parent home households. Most parents hold 3 jobs. Our unemployment rate maybe it's at 10%, but it's still high. Our crime rate, we have every year we have 4,000 children being abused or victimized. Our Manumco right now, we have 270 last year of our senior citizens who have been victimized. And so it's just really unacceptable. And so as I studied everything, the military is called Mission Readiness, a 2014 study. All these retired generals and admirals said, we have a problem. A high percentage of the people who want to become soldiers in the 17 to 24 age range are overweight, they can't pass the tests, and they have significant criminal records. And they're saying we need to do better, and it needs to be early on. The Federal Reserve Bank, they do a lot of studies of economic development. They study the data, the production, and employment, and they're highly concerned because we're not getting workforce development at the level. So that, of course, affects the economy. And their studies reinforce what the studies in the education world say, and that is for every dollar we invest in early learning, we get a return of $10 to $12 later on, in less crime and graduation, less welfare participation, and even something like less teen pregnancies. And so this is something that I was so happy when the Early Learning Council said absolutely, and First Lady Christine is the co-chair, Elaine Eclave is the other co-chair, because they know this is something that they will help. Guam Community College, Mary Okada with the training, John Sanchez at the University of Guam is the Dean of School of Ed. Everybody is like, this is something we can phase in. You know, so next school year, as you were saying, we hope to have at least 4 phased in.
4 schools, yeah.
And then by 2020, we'll have the compulsory age for GDOE be starting at age 4. And it's all about what Head Start already does.
Sure.
Kathy Schrader and her team do an excellent job of providing early learning for those in certain economic levels and for those who may have disabilities. They service 500 kids.
Sure.
They always have a healthy waiting list. I was most proud of her when I talked to her, and she nodded and she goes, absolutely, because it's competition.
Sure.
So, but she's, you know, she's a true advocate, so she knows that this will strengthen the mission of Head Start.
Yeah, you know, one of my topics of discussion with Vince, I was saying, I mean, that it's great to set a 2020 date, but I'm saying if I'm a parent, I just happen to live in a district or a school district that my school hasn't implemented yet, and looking maybe 2 years down the line, I would be, you know, I would be working my senators and Department of Education. Look, come on, you know. My friend's son is in preschool already. I'm not, just, and I'm being discriminated not because of who I am, but of where I live, because it's not implemented yet. So I'm sure you guys are going to be hard pressed to again implement it before your date of 2020.
Yeah, so 2020 is the deadline, but Jess, as you can also imagine, we want to be smart about it.
Of course.
Right? So that means, you know, right now we have an estimate of 2,300 kids age 4, and our birth rate is steady. It's 300 a month. So we know that data piece is pretty steady. We have 190 teachers currently certified in early childhood education, but we have all agreed, and all the people meeting, is that they need to be retooled, retrained, and they have to remember what it's like to teach a 4-year-old, which is, you can't have 4-year-olds and expect them all to sit down and keep quiet. And that's just a different, you know, different learning situation. So the whole certification training has to be really serious, and it has to be people who want to be assigned to state preschool have to know that they're going to have to know how to work with families, the helicopter families, the dry cleaner families, the difficult families. They're going to have to know how to work with the diversity at that young age. They're going to have to know, they're going to have to be expected to welcome all of those with disabilities. So it's phasing it in so that we do it smart. And I'm just really pleased because colleagues are sending in all these reports and studies. I got one from Davis Flores today saying, you know, this is great, but make sure it's done well and smart. And she's right. We don't want to waste the money. So the phase in, of which, of course, Mr. Fernandez, Superintendent Fernandez, will determine the rules and regs if the measure passes. He'll decide best how to do it. And
now, let me ask you this, because this is important as well. I mean, maybe this is out of your realm, but it'd be on the Department of Education. But again, it would make all the sense in the world to start at 4, and maybe down the line, maybe even 3. I mean, Apple and all these computer companies have our kids very versatile computers by the time they're 3.
Absolutely.
So by the time they're 4 years old already, it's like, you know, you're blocking things out from your computer because they know how to get into these sites that they're not supposed to be getting into. So, you know, technology has advanced our kids. So I can see down the line where 3-year-old, you know, we go down to 3. But that being said, Senator, is that of course we have you know, you're going to have you may have a shortfall maybe of teachers. You got to get them up to speed as everything you said. But also the important component is say for example these Chamorro teachers now. Now we're going to have to teach our kids now earlier, which is again, the earlier the better. The earlier they learn Chamorro, the better it is for them to be able to graduate again and to be well versed in Chamorro. You know, of course, over the years, our Chamorro studies teachers are clamoring at the fact that they still haven't had their classrooms and, you know, curriculum, whatever it may be at this point. How are we going to balance that? And because we have to holistically look at this as well, because this is a mandate that they have to take this as well, and you know. You have to
well, and so then, and that's a really good point, because I've been reading different opinions about all the mandates, and how do you juggle everything. Well, then that's where the Board of Education and the superintendent and the curriculum team and the principals and the teachers and, you know, all the stakeholders, the families, decide how they're going to do it. When I was looking at the room inventory, there are rooms.
Okay.
Senator, when I was at DOE, which I know, which is a long time ago, but when I was at DOE, we had 36,000 kids, okay? Today we have 31,000 kids.
So we've gone down.
And we have more schools. So when I'm looking at the data, the table that I got, and I see the room inventory, we have rooms.
Yeah.
Now, granted, maybe some of them are being used for storage rooms, but that's where the priority has to be defined.
Sure.
It's no longer a storage area.
Okay.
We are going to turn this into a learning situation for our kids. And indeed, if our tomorrow teachers still don't have their rooms like they're supposed
Sure.
to, that's something that the board and our superintendent need to take care of.
And it needs to, because, I mean, for the longest time we've heard this, and if it's a mandate, you know, if it's a mandate, if we're serious about it, we have to be serious about it, you know, serious about it. And likewise, we have to be serious, and again, when they graduate, they have a very good grip of the Chamorro language and all that. And again, the sooner, I think the sooner the better. But if the sooner doesn't have to mean better, if they're not, if the Chamorro studies or Chamorro studies folks don't get the tools and mechanisms. You know, I mean, we hear that constantly of the shortfalls that they have. And I hope, again, when we look at this whole thing holistically, that they have to be funded alongside everybody else, you know, and just not because it's required, you got to do it and this and that, but you know, your teachers complain that they're you know, I mean, when you see them in the school, you think they're going on a trip because they're lugging their suitcases. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break, talk a little bit more about this, and then we'll talk about the what the governor signed today, the bill regarding the charter school falling under GovCon procurement.
Okay.
Be right back.